welcome to SveNFL.
What's up, y'all?
It's Jonathan Rollins.
Schif Zara.
And we're two Americans living in Sweden, talking about football.
Yes,
sir. I'm smiling and stuff right now, but I had a rough weekend, man. It was a dark cloud looming over my head the entire weekend as I just slowly shuffled through my apartment in sadness.
Is that why you called me last night and asked for my infamous chocolate chip cookie recipe?
Man, it turned out so good. I did call you last night and do that. That was just I saw a baking thing. I get a lot of Instagram food stuff. Maybe I was like binge eating to pacify myself. But
look, it was a rough start to your, to the end of the week, and you wanted to end it on a positive note. I can understand that. Yeah,
and I ended it with eating too many cookies and needing an extra gym session this week.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, I'd said before we came on that I'm thankful for this podcast because I wouldn't have watched any football. I wouldn't have watched.
Right.
And then, the U made me feel better. The undefeated University of Miami, including the winless Florida State Seminoles.
That story is unbelievable for anybody who cares about college football. The fact that Florida State, the whole situation of them being, fucked out of a chance to compete for the national championship despite being undefeated last year.
Yeah.
And then trying to sue the ACC because they think they're better than everybody else in their conference. And then they roll into this season and just start dropping L's all over the place. It's like really one of the more fascinating stories in college football.
Like you should have worried about you should have worried about what was in front of you. And now you lost to three inferior teams. Was it Memphis? A basketball school?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Man.
My Bulldogs barely beat the Kentucky Wildcats. That was
barely.
I feel like we do this at least one game a year where it's like, oh my God, what's happening? I woke up and it was like we won 13-12. I was like, Jesus Christ. Like, what? Yikes.
Well, my team, I was watching right after the comedy show. And my team blew out Ball State 62-0.
What the fuck is Ball State? I
didn't even know. I was with Marcus, my friend Marcus, and he's from he's lived in Ohio. So he knew where. I didn't know geographically where Ball State was. He was he said like, "Oh, y'all beat some shitty team from Ohio." I was like, "Oh, that's where it is." So I'm still glad, man. Yeah. But yeah, it's glad that made me feel better. I was like, well, at least I have this. But I was just thinking that, I just felt like our season was over as a Dolphins fan so early in the year. I had that football has ended feeling, even though. So thankfully, this podcast, I was like, it's my responsibility to our listeners to watch the games despite being in a slump, in a funk. And I'm glad I did.
Well, we might as well just rip off the Band-Aid and talk about it. Well, for starters, the Bills beat the Dolphins 31-10. Mm-hmm. I mean, the story of the game is obviously Tua, another scary-looking concussion.
Yeah.
You and I are planning to have a deeper conversation about this in the next episode. In all honesty, the Bills were beating the doors off of the Dolphins way before any of this happened.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm starting to think
it's what made him go for it. Like it made him like trying to put the game on his shoulders.
100%. I mean, obviously people are amused by the irony of the fact that it's Tua running into Damar Hamlin.
Oh yeah. It is ironic. Yeah, it's ironic.
I mean, it is what it is. Yeah. I don't really take a whole lot from that, to be honest, but
no.
My main takeaway is that I feel like we've kind of underestimated the Bills. I mean, we jumped down Josh Allen's throat for the way he played last week, putting the team on his back and putting his body on the line. This week was way more of a team performance. Allen only threw the ball 19 times.
Yep. That's how you do it, man.
The 3 interceptions by Tua obviously helped.
Did you see the first one? The receiver, it's like, do we have more than Tyreek and Waddle?
I feel like, well, I mean, anytime you have to choose, sorry, pun intended, choose to throw the ball to Robbie Chosen, this is not something you want to.
No, not that one. The first one, I don't even know who the receiver is. It hit him in his shoulder pad. Like, he'd never looked for the ball, and it bounced off of him and went into the defender's hands. And then Chosen ran the wrong route. I was like, man, this is just a comedy of errors. And then you have the freak injury, too, where
I actually didn't really consider. I think 2 of those interceptions were probably on the receivers.
Yeah, definitely.
For the most part. And then there was the third one, which was kind of Tua. But,
force, yeah. Yeah, it was just it just looked like a bad night. And it was like, all right, it's not our night. And then he tries this last-ditch effort to try to pull it a little closer. And then it's like, man, if things couldn't get worse, then that happens. And it's the last thing you want to see is that guy who's you just rooting for him. And then, yeah.
I immediately texted you when I saw the score the following day and officially apologized on behalf of all of my former Bulldogs, especially James Cook, for having 3 touchdowns, 2 rushing, 1 receiving. Yeah. I had mixed feelings. I was sad for you, but I was happy for him. And it was like, what do I do with this conflicting emotional whirlwind that I'm having?
It is what it is. It is what it is.
But yeah, it's I don't know. My other takeaway was I feel like I have to ask. Josh Allen fool's gold according to a lot of people, yourself included.
Yeah, I still think it's fool's gold.
He's 11-2 against your Dolphins.
Yeah. He shows up every time. Talks shit the whole game. Gets in their heads. Yeah, just beats the shit out of us.
I'm just starting to feel like the population of fuck Kyle Shanahan Island is increasing while the population of Josh Allen is fool's gold is kind of on the decline a little bit.
I can understand that, but sometimes you got to win at the end of the game.
Right.
And we're holding out to the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
To the island the island still exists. So,
right.
As long as the island's there, I don't see sea level rising.
It feels like climate change is coming for your island, bro.
We'll see. I mean, if he plays against a team he doesn't own, we'll see how he does then. All right. He owns us. He's been owning us for years.
I would imagine that the majority of those wins came when you guys were terrible.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, but the only loss was like that one game when they all cramped to death on a crazy comeback.
That was hilarious.
But it was a full, like you said, it was a full team effort. Their defense showed up, which is I was surprised by that the defense looked that good, but they just like shut down that's 2 weeks in a row that Mike McDaniel offense is not looking up to par. Don't forget, Miami had to work their way back against the Jaguars, who after this week doesn't look like that impressive of a team either. So maybe has the league figured out that offense? Maybe it needs another wrinkle. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, if you could criticize them for anything, is their inability to build some more receiver depth.
Yeah. One bright spot. The bright spot on the Dolphins is Achane looks like a star.
He does.
Yeah.
He does. He looked great. You're 100% correct. He was the only truly impressive thing from that game for the Dolphins. Again, like I said, we'll discuss the Tua situation a little more in the next episode. But for now, we might as well move on to the next game, which is Cowboys Saints, correct?
Yes.
Wow. Is the first thing I have to say.
Are the Saints the truth?
I don't know. I mean, Okay, the thing that really struck me about this game, which I didn't realize it at the time, because how could you? The opening pregame image of this game, before the game even started, included a shot of Jerry Jones, Tom Brady,
Yes,
and
yes.
Mike Tyson on
I
like
thought that. I
standing on the
thought it.
field. If that wasn't weird enough, how about 4 touchdowns from Alvin Kamara, right?
Man.
A fantastic defensive performance from the Saints,
Yeah.
and Derek Carr looking like prime Dan Marino,
Yeah.
resulted in the Saints essentially opening a can of whoop ass on the Cowboys.
Whoop ass.
Carr was 11 for 16, 243 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, the thing that was so ironic about the opening image to me is that, Mike Tyson is obviously the one who's famously quoted as saying everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And then the Saints came out and punched the Cowboys in the mouth, and they had no plan whatsoever to answer the Saints, who have scored north of 90 points in their first 2 games of the season.
There was a stat that it went back like it's like 4 games in a row, 40 plus or something like that. If you go back into last season,
I think it might be 4. It's definitely 3, because their last game of the season was against the Falcons. After it was one of those things where we had already been eliminated from the playoffs, so we didn't play anybody,
okay.
and they beat the brakes off of us. I honestly don't know what to say about what's happening.
It could have been a fluke thing, but the Saints might be for real. Like Rashid Shaheed, getting behind defenses seems to be their thing.
The thing that makes me a little nervous that it might be real is all of this chatter about their new offensive coordinator, Clint Kubiak, who came from San Francisco, working, and perhaps maybe he's the real genius. Maybe it's not Shanahan after all. Maybe it's Clint Kubiak. I'm just saying. So I don't know. We'll see. Further investigation is required to see if that's the case. I'm not saying that's.
They say the most important thing that you can do as a leader or manager and whatnot is hiring. And maybe Dennis Allen, who we think is a subpar coach, hired his way out of trouble.
Or he hired his replacement. You know what I mean? There's that too.
Just because you're a good offensive coordinator doesn't mean you're going to be a great coach.
That's true. I agree. I mean, look, Saints fans have got to be feeling good about themselves.
Yeah.
I have some more to say about them later in the superlatives, but I mean, honestly, Alvin Kamara, how much fun is he when he's firing like this?
Yeah.
And I really like his demeanor as well. I actually happened to catch a little clip from the post-game interview where he was just like calm and cool, and he's like, "Look, it's great, but we know that it's 2 games, and we just got to keep moving forward." And like you would kind of expect
you're gonna piss off your boy Ken. He gonna give you.
Come on, son. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit.
Ken's gonna be mad as hell at you.
I know. Just wait till he hears what I have to say later. It makes me sick to my stomach. As a matter of fact, let's just move on to the next game.
All right.
Which was what? Bucks,
Lions and the Bucks. Yeah. Surprise.
I mean, this was a gritty defensive performance by both teams. Aiden Hutchinson had 4.5 sacks, made it extremely difficult for Baker Mayfield all day. But, I mean, you got to give credit where credit is due. Baker Mayfield is a fucking baller.
Yeah.
He hung in there, led his team in rushing, and led the Bucks to victory, thanks in large part to Chris Godwin, of all people, who just popped off for 117 yards, including that 80-yard touchdown drive where Godwin was responsible for 79 of those yards. I was like, that's impressive.
Maybe guard him.
That being said, the Lions beat themselves in this game, period. Not to take anything away from the Bucks. The Bucks did what they had to do, and I give them full credit for hanging in there and snatching this win. But the Lions shot themselves directly in the foot.
Listen to this. 324 to 146. That's passing yards. 139 to 70 is rushing yards. They had more yards per play. They had almost twice as many first downs. The Bucks were 20% on third down. Didn't even try fourth down, but the Rams 3 out of 5 on fourth down. So they were like, it's crazy. They had twice as many plays almost.
Yep.
Half as many punts. Insane, man. And
I feel like our periods are aligned. I literally had written in my notes, team comparison stats are insane.
Yeah.
And then you just brought them up. Because that really was the story of the game. It's like if you look at the team comparison stats, there's no logical reason why the Lions should have lost this football game.
No,
None.
especially when you mentioned that Baker Mayfield led the team in rushing. It's not like he went off rushing. He had 34 yards.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
It's like, come on, Lions. Why is Jared Goff throwing the ball 55 times?
But the thing is that Baker Mayfield, he had a few moments in this game where he was like, even though he got sacked 4.5 times, there were plenty of other times where they had him dead to rights and he managed to get loose and make a play.
That's the kind of game that gets your whole locker room behind you.
Yeah, for sure.
Like that's one of those. That's his thing, man. He's like Tim Tebow with skills.
It's a good way to. Yeah, you're right.
Like imagine if Tim Tebow had some skills and he'd be Baker Mayfield. People just believe in this dude. He's like a born leader type of guy, and I think that's gonna take them far. And that division, man, that's when that's underrated. Like we took for granted, thinking it was just gonna be a shitty division, but right now there's 2 undefeated teams in it, and one team is looking good.
Yeah, and they talked all about it in the pregame about the key to beating the Lions is to get pressure on Jared Goff, and they showed multiple clips of like when a defender is in his face, he tends to throw the ball to the other team, and he did that twice in this game.
Yep.
2 bad interceptions that he threw directly to the Buccaneers because he had a guy in his face, and so the Bucs defense played great. So did the Lions defense. Obviously, Aiden Hutchinson was only 1 sack away from tying the record for most sacks in a game by a Lion. He's been really great since the season started.
He's one of our picks for possible defensive player of the year.
Also, the Lions weren't able to really get the run game going as much as they would have liked to. Of course, I mean, there is no scenario where Jared Goff throwing the ball 55 times is a recipe for success.
Exactly.
It's not going to work. But kudos to the Bucs, man. They marched into Detroit, which is everyone is saying like, oh, it's so hard to play in Detroit. And it's like, and to be fair, in the post game, Dan Campbell took full credit. He said our guys played a hell of a game. Their coach lost them this game. He's
got controlled fury. And, I'm ready to go.
I pity whoever is next on their schedule, to be honest, because Dan Campbell is going to go fucking bananas, I'm sure.
Yeah. He's got to chill on this gambling, man. Dan Gamble. He did a fake punt from the 10.
That was awesome. I'm sorry, but that was amazing.
If they don't get it, then everybody's like, what the fuck?
A punter throwing a 4th down fake punt pass to a third string running back. I was like, this guy is insane.
He's insane.
He is absolutely insane.
They put him in concussion protocol after. Speaking of concussion protocol, the Colts are what the fuck?
I mean,
how you lose to Malik Willis?
Well, not only that, how do you lose to the Packers knowing full well that like the whole okay, when you go up against a team where you know that the quarterback is not a proficient passer, you don't really have to put a lot of thought into how to make this team one-dimensional, right? Because as soon as you make them one-dimensional, you can beat them. Correct?
Yes. It's so elementary. It's so elementary.
But going into this game, the Packers had already done most of the work for the Colts they had already essentially rendered themselves one-dimensional by starting Malik Willis.
Yep.
And the Colts still couldn't figure out a way to win this football game.
Insane, man. Just putting out letting them letting Malik Willis throw these dinking dunks. He tried to throw an interception on the on this out route. It was like I don't know. I forget who was calling that game, but they were acting like it was a fantastic pass. I was like, no, that was a very irresponsible pass that was caught on the outside. And it was early in the game, and I was like, oh, he'll definitely give this game away. But no, they hung in there and won the game.
Ironically, Malik Willis, I think I'm correct in saying, finishes week 2 with the highest passer rating of any quarterback in the NFL.
No, that's not true. That's not true. One person had a perfect passer rating.
Who had that?
Kyler Murray.
Did he?
He played a perfect game. Yeah.
Oh, you're right. But anyway,
he had some incompletion, but yeah.
It wasn't the fact that he had a great passer rating is because he only threw 14 passes. Yeah. He completed 12 of them. Yeah. To be fair, he
for 122 yards.
But this was, I mean, how many rush attempts did they have in this game? I mean, and this is it. Like, all you had to do was stop the run. Stop the fucking run. Josh Jacobs ran the rock 32 times.
Some Ricky Williams shit.
32 times for 151 yards. I mean, honestly, I don't know what to say other than
stack the box. That's what I want to say. Stack the box.
Yeah. Look,
what are you worried about?
Anthony Richardson looked like that Florida Gators quarterback that I remember. Okay, a ton of throws, very inaccurate. Threw the ball to the other team a lot. 3 picks in total. Did
you watch any with like the commentary on? Did you get to see the game with any commentary?
Well, I was watching Red Zone, so it was, and obviously for those of you who watch Red Zone, you know there were 10 games in the early window. Yes, Scott Hansen was literally. I was worried for Scott Hansen. I thought he was going to pass out. I mean,
he definitely had his astronaut diaper on.
For sure. Yeah. I feel like he should have like taken shots of oxygen in between takes because it's like he was on one.
Yeah, man. He's like fumbling names and shit, and he was just like, and this, it was crazy. It was too much. But anytime like the desire for Anthony Richardson to pan out is overshadowing his mediocrity.
Right.
And it's starting to bother me a little bit. When I see them talk about, oh my God, it's like, okay, he can throw the ball far and hard.
In all honesty, Anthony Richardson is a great example of why I now obviously enjoy fantasy football. Previously, I had this take that I thought fantasy football is dumb, but now that I've won our league, I'm all in. However, Anthony Richardson is exactly the kind of quarterback that annoys me when it comes to fantasy football, because I think that the majority of the hype around Anthony Richardson is because of his fantasy potential.
Yes.
And we get all caught up in this, especially at the combine. You know, when a guy like him shows up, he's huge. He's a massive individual, you know, and he's wearing a t-shirt and shorts, throwing the ball 90 yards down the field. And everyone's like, oh my God. And it's like, yeah, but can he play fucking football? Exactly. I happen to watch him for an entire season play football. Yeah. And my answer is no, he cannot play football. And there's one thing.
The stuff you saw was like all his games.
I literally saw all of his games.
Exactly.
Since high school, right? And then this guy goes in the NFL and everyone's talking about him like he's, you know, the second coming of fucking, you know, John Elway or some shit. I'm just ridiculous. I'm not here for that. There's one little thing that is on my radar with him that is starting to piss me off. He did this last week and he did it this week too. He seems to be like incapable or somehow like allergic to the concept of throwing accurate passes to my man, former Bulldog A.D. Mitchell. I have no idea, like how he is, in 2 weeks has overthrown A.D. Mitchell on what would have been just like walk-in touchdowns at least 4 times.
Damn, that's got to be frustrating as a Bulldog fan.
Oh, you know he's pissed about that.
Yeah, yeah, 50% completion. How you head to head against Malik Willis and get outshined? And you're supposed to be the future? Come on, man.
This is embarrassing.
Speaking of embarrassing, Will Levis. Titans should have beat the Jets, man. I was waiting on this. Jets were supposed to be 0-2 to start the season, and the Titans fumbled it away, man. Will Levis with another, like after last week, you would think he learned his lesson. Throwing the ball, falling down, easily lobbing it up to, that was the third pick when Tua did the same type of thing that Levis did last week, trying to throw it out of bounds. I don't know if Levis was trying to throw it out of bounds. I think he was trying to save the play. Tua tried to throw it out of bounds, got hit, and then it lobbed up to the guy. But this one, he didn't even, it was worse. They're in the red zone. He's going down. Take the field goal. But no, he throws the ball backwards to a running back who's not ready for it. And that's when the game swung.
Yeah. By a country mile, the funniest moment of the NFL season thus far is the shot of new head coach Brian Callahan after Will Levis tries to do this like ridiculous matrix twist backwards pass fumble where Levis is coming off the field and Callahan approaches him, and it's like, you don't have to be a professional lip reader to see it. It was clear as day. He said, "What the fuck are you doing?"
Fuck that guy.
And then in the post-game press conference, he just, they asked him, "What did you say to Will Levis after he did that?" He's like, "I'm pretty sure the broadcast caught it."
I don't understand, especially that they had. They went through the tape and all this stuff, and it's like, all right, you fucked up. Don't ever do that again. This to do it the next week, the same type of thing. It's like, man, he might have that Josh Allen in him, where it's like, super competitive. But man, you're not.
This is another guy that I'm deeply familiar with because he also played in the SEC, played for Kentucky, and I've said this many times. This is not the quarterback you want to have on your football team. He's already talking about after having to sit there and listen to his coach call him dumb, going on about how dumb it was for him to 2 weeks in a row to do something boneheaded like this. Will Levis is already talking about how, I need to figure out a way to rewire my brain, was his quote. And I was like, bruh, I don't think you're smart enough for that. Like, I mean, honestly,
he's in the sunken place.
Jeez.
Calvin Ridley looked good though.
Calvin Ridley looked good. That touchdown catch was like some crazy sleight of hand shit. I didn't even see what happened there.
On sauce.
Yeah. Breece Hall looked good.
Yeah.
In the game. The Jets, it's not a pretty win, but obviously it's Aaron Rodgers. It's his first victory.
Hey, Ron.
They won by and large because Will Levis was such a dumbass, but also because of that block punt.
That's it,
which was kind of a big deal. And the Jets D-line sort of, they had some explaining to do after their performance last week, and they showed up and got after Will Levis all day long. And obviously it helped that Will Levis was, playing like he was high on barbiturates and Kentucky bourbon, what I mean? It's like,
and they still had a chance to win, man.
They did still have a chance to win, which is ridiculous. So Jets fans Jets fans, they're glad they got the win, but they're not super excited about how
they're ready to
how
boo.
it played out.
They're freaking booze out. On cues. Booze on cue.
For sure.
A home team that had a rough go, the Niners, took that L against the Vikings, who are 2-0 without their rookie quarterback.
Well, actually, the 49ers did not play it. Did you say home team? They played in Minnesota.
That was in Minnesota?
No. Yeah, because they mentioned this on the broadcast after the game was over.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I'm sorry. This is backwards here. They do it.
I don't remember the number or the year, but it's been like something crazy since the 49ers.
1992, I think it was, something like that.
I was shocked to learn that.
Yeah, you're right. It was in Minnesota.
Crazy situation. I mean, what can you say other than Sam Darnold shocks the world, takes down the 49ers, thanks to a pass from his own end zone to Justin Jefferson for a 97-yard touchdown. I mean, obviously, great pass.
Yeah.
Don't take it away from that. I mean, that to me was, Justin Jefferson basically turned that into a touchdown, obviously, because he
redirected and all of that stuff. Yeah, it was a video game score.
And everybody's talking about the official who managed to keep up with the play. Like everyone's calling him this week's MVP for his ability to sort of flip his hips as he's like turning around at the last second. Like it was pretty impressive.
But nobody expected the Vikings to win. They because the 49ers have such a good defensive roster, and somehow gave up 23 points to the Vikings. So, I basically want to ask you, how is this Kyle Shanahan's fault? It seems like a simple answer, but just wondering, how is this Kyle Shanahan's fault?
I mean, honestly, like there's like a smorgasbord of answers that I could give to this question. I mean, losing to someone who used to be on your staff, that's not something you really want to do. Underestimating the Brian Flores Vikings defense, certainly did that. Thinking that Brock Purdy could just like roll in there and pick this team apart piece by piece. Thinking you're gonna, we'll be fine without Christian McCaffrey. What's the big deal?
Jordan Mason still had a buck.
To be fair, Jordan Mason had a great game.
Yeah.
But I think Kyle Shanahan got outcoached. Period. I think he got outcoached. I'm sorry. I know that I have, there are biases involved here. I am aware.
I think you got a point.
But and he let a guy, Sam Darnold, who most people do not believe in, who used to be the backup quarterback to Brock Purdy last year. You telling me you let this guy pick you apart? Bro. And Sam Darnold through 2 weeks has looked pretty good. It's 2 weeks, so let's not get too excited. But 17 for 26, 268, 2 touchdowns. He did throw a pick, but
who'd they beat last week?
Last week, I can't remember who they beat last week. They beat the Giants, which is I think you and I could beat the Giants.
I don't.
Look, this was an impressive performance for the Vikings, who start the year 2-0, which nobody really expected that. And I might be starting to change who I thought they were. We'll see. We need a few more weeks. I usually say we need until at least week 5.
Yeah, week 5.
Maybe 6 before we can start having this conversation about you are who we thought you were.
Yeah.
But so far, so good. I mean, really impressive performance to keep. And to be fair, Justin Jefferson left this game at one point, and Sam Darnold continued to wheel and deal without what is arguably the best receiver in the National Football League. Yeah. Right? He left with a leg contusion, which thankfully turns out not to be a huge deal. He's going to be fine. But
you know who's better than we thought they were?
Tell me.
The New England Patriots.
I know, right? Isn't that annoying?
Yes, it's very annoying. Like, is Gerard Mayo that guy?
That's so annoying.
Yeah, man. Is he that dude, man, going up against the Seahawks? I mean, 2 first-year coaches going up against each other, and it goes overtime.
Yeah.
For the Seahawks, who have a way better roster, I think. Patriots supposed to have like the worst roster in the league almost, and they're obviously rebuilding, but it don't look like it's going to take long.
This was old school phrase.
Yeah.
A slobber knocker.
Yeah.
Back and forth, beating each other up. Both teams, obviously, the Patriots are clearly better than we thought they were.
Yeah.
Their defense is going to carry the day. That being said, Ramondre looks great. Their run game, also
Yes.
Antonio Gibson, they had their run game cooking. Gibson had 96 yards. Ramondre had 81. And then of course the Patriots defense just shut down the Seahawks run game.
Mm-hmm.
Charbonnet only had 38 yards. Geno had 8. I mean, that's it. That's the extent of their rushing. So luckily for them, Geno was gripping it and ripping it. DK Metcalf had 129 yards. Smith and Jigba had 117, and they managed to sneak this one into overtime. Patriots won the coin toss, couldn't do anything, 3 and out, and then Geno put the team on his shoulders and won the ball game. So,
man, you know how you know it's a good, well-coached teams?
How's that?
No turnovers. It went all the way to overtime. Neither team turned the ball over. I think we got 2 rookie coaches that are going to be on those teams for a while.
That's a good point.
Kudos to both
Good
of
point.
them. I can't say the same for the Giants. I don't know how.
Speaking of no turnover, well, actually, that might have been.
I was liking it so far. I do like the Jaden Daniels experience, though.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching him. I was like, okay, I can see it.
I'm actually a little frustrated by the Jaden Daniels experience.
Why's that?
So far? Well, because he's just like he gives me Lamar Jackson vibes, which that part I like, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very shifty, very quick.
Yeah.
But I just don't think he sees the field very well. He's so quick to bail out of the play and run. He holds onto the ball for too long. He still plays like he's playing in college, where a lot of college quarterbacks who are mobile in the way that he is, they get outside the pocket essentially because they think their receiver is going to figure out a way to get open. And 9 times out of 10 in college, and especially when you play at a place like LSU, you're going to have receivers who are going to get, if you give them an extra 3 or 4 seconds, they're going to get 5 to 10 yards wide the fuck open. It doesn't work that way in the NFL. And I'm just a little worried that this roller coaster, which is fun to watch, is at some point going to come in for a crash landing.
Good point, man. Yeah, the teams will be adjusting and setting them up and stuff.
Because he ain't big. He's tiny.
Yeah. What'd you think about, was there any moment where you're like, oh shit, Saquon is at it again?
That's weird, isn't it? Isn't it weird that they gave Saquon's number to Devin Singletary? I think that's weird. I think it's very strange. Essentially, the Commanders won this game because of a last-second game-winning field goal by kicker Austin Siebert, who just joined the team last week.
Yeah.
Okay? All 21 points scored by the Commanders were field goals.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, this is a stat that's going around. The Giants became the first team in NFL history to score three touchdowns while still managing to lose the game despite their opponent never finding the end zone. Yeah. Insane. The only bright spot in this game for the Giants was Malik Neighbors. 127 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah.
He's obviously
that dude.
What he's what everyone was hoping he would be.
Yeah.
But this Giants team is pathetic.
Yeah.
I think. Absolutely pathetic.
Speaking of pathetic, the Carolina Panthers hosted the Chargers. This game was over quickly. It was like I went to go get a sandwich. Came back and was like, all right, I guess I'll this one's over.
Right.
It's so bad.
My first note was, great job, Chargers. You beat a high school football team. Bryce Young got sacked multiple times. He threw for under 100 yards, and the run game couldn't do a damn thing either. I mean, whatever. I might as well say this here. The news dropped last night that Bryce Young has been benched for the Red Rifle, Andy Dalton. I don't think you really need to say much more about how horrible things are going for the Carolina Panthers. As far as the Chargers are concerned, I don't really know what to take away from any team playing a dumpster fire like this. J.K. Dobbins looked great. Quentin Johnson, who couldn't catch a cold last year, had 2 touchdown grabs, so that's good for them.
You know what's different? You know what you could take away from these first 2 games?
What's that?
The coaching difference.
Oh, for sure.
It's a different team already. You could tell already. Justin Herbert threw the ball 20 times.
Right.
And then I don't know what he threw it last week, but it definitely wasn't the 45-50 we were seeing last year when Brandon Staley was overthinking everything. With I think he had Kellen Moore, right, last year. But Harbaugh, his fingerprints are all over this team already. They're a hard-nosed, rough-it-out football team already, and we're going to see that all year. That's what I took away from this game. And Herbert almost got hurt, too. That was a little scary, but he was good. It was good to see him back.
So far, based on what I've seen, I think he might be okay.
He came back after the play.
Yeah, I think he's okay.
Yeah, but that was it was a different. You could tell that the personality is different. I mean, it's a matter of time before he wears out his welcome in LA. But give it 4 years, Chargers fans. Hopefully, y'all can win it all by then, before Harbaugh pisses everybody off and gets kicked out of town.
Yeah, speaking of 2 teams that are not okay, Cleveland Browns, Jacksonville Jaguars, 18-3. The Browns win this game. Another game won with great defense and a shitload of field goals because Deshaun Watson, frankly, was ass again. And also some seriously head-scratching moments from Jaguars coach Doug Peterson.
Man,
none more bizarre than the decision to attempt something I have literally never seen before in a football game in my entire life, a post-safety onside punt. A play that did not work.
What?
While also giving great field position to the Browns, who, credit to the Jaguars defense, forced them to a 3-and-out. Now, had the Jags kicked the ball deep and produced that 3-and-out, they would have gotten the ball back somewhere around midfield, right? With a chance to go win the game. Instead, they began the drive from their own 10-yard line. They did get the ball down to the Browns 33, but by that time the clock had run out and ball game was over.
If the magic number of this game, 46.7, what do you think that is?
I don't know.
It's Trevor Lawrence's completion percentage.
Oof.
Trevor Lawrence.
Yikes.
What were they calling him? The prototypical, like the future or the perfect quarterback and all of that shit. 46.7.
Generational talent. That's
generational talent. That's what they were calling him.
14 for 30, 220 yards. You're right. Yeah, shit. That's bad.
It's pretty bad. Sometimes he looks horrible, man. And then sometimes he throws a beautiful ball sometimes, but then sometimes like, what are you thinking? He had that nice gallop down the sidelines. Looked really nice when he broke free and ran. I like that he's a sneaky dual threat. Like kind of like Joe Burrow. You don't expect it, and all of a sudden, oh shit, he gassed you for 16 yards. I like that about him, but sometimes it's head scratching.
Yeah, I mean, in a way, I think Trevor Lawrence might be just a lot more like a lot of the quarterbacks in the NFL. They just don't handle pressure very well. And he obviously made a lot of mistakes.
Neither quarterback threw for a touchdown.
Right. Yeah.
Deshaun Watson, is that one are we there where he's just like not it? He's not the 2019 Deshaun Watson is not coming back. No matter how much we would love to see a quarterback of that caliber, it's not going to be him. Is that where we're at?
I don't see any chance whatsoever of that version of Deshaun Watson popping up.
Is he going to be the football version of Derrick Rose, where you're just like, what could have been? Like, man,
I guess
this talent that all of that, we had this talent, and then all of a sudden it just dropped off. Like, but it wasn't injuries; it was scandals and contract dispute.
I have no faith in Deshaun Watson for many, both football and human reasons.
Speaking of the Ravens have no victories.
It's a weird transition.
No victories. Who thought that the Ravens would be 0-2 right now? Not us, because we picked them to win the division, and they still can. But, geez.
It's stunning. The Ravens, as you suggest, start the year 0-2 after losing to Gardner Minshew and the Raiders, thanks to a comeback victory on the backs of the performance of the rookie, my man, former Bulldog, and one of my favorite Bulldogs, Brock motherfucking Bowers.
Yeah.
I mean,
I like that dude.
He's awesome. I was really apprehensive about the idea that he landed on the Raiders. I wanted him to land on a better team. But they really do seem to understand what he is and what he's capable of. I don't remember the stat, and honestly, it's kind of stupid, but through 2 games, he has, more receptions, blah, 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 blah. It's like, call me at the end of the season. We'll see how it goes. But I'm very excited that this is turning out better than I had anticipated. That being said, the Ravens threw this game away.
Yes.
They had it in the bag. They deeply mismanaged the end of the game. Up 23-16 with the ball in their hands. All they had to do was put together a drive and choke the clock. Instead, they went 3 and out, gave up the game-tying touchdown.
They stopped the clock, too.
Yep, followed by another 3 and out that allowed Minshew to set up the Raiders for the game-winning field goal. Max Crosby obviously had something to do with this, kind of getting in the backfield and wreaking havoc.
Yes.
But it just felt – we've seen this before from the Ravens. And
Yep.
I just felt like there's something weird about this, that it looks oddly familiar. And then, of course, I read the next day, Ravens, 10-point fourth quarter leads. 11 times in the last 3 seasons they have done this. So, they also had 11 penalties for 109 yards in this game, which was inexcusable.
God damn, the whole field.
Yeah. Honestly, they do this sometimes, man. They do it where it's like they get into the fourth quarter and it's like, I don't know who's responsible for this, but they just don't know how to. They can't finish the game.
It's got to be coach. My magic number for this game is 124. And that's the discrepancy in rushing yards. The Ravens had 124 more yards. They held the Raiders to 27 yards rushing and lost the game.
Absurd. Absolutely absurd.
Yeah.
There's no excuse when you have both Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry in your backfield that you can't figure out a way to finish off that last drive.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. Yeah. The another 0-2 team saddens me. These are 2 teams in a row that we picked to win a division. Ravens and then the Rams. And the Rams, they just had Lady Luck is I don't know, in the shower. I don't know. Lady Luck is not there for them. And they got blown the fuck out. This was over a little bit faster than the Chargers game. 41-10. Cardinals just played their best game possible while the Rams played their worst game possible to combine for an unwatchable football game.
This was absurd. Marvin Harrison Jr., who everybody was freaking out about last week for only having like 1 catch, starts the game with 4 catches, 130 yards, and 2 touchdowns in the first quarter of what turned out to just be a complete beatdown of the Rams, who look like a shell of themselves thanks to an injury report sheet longer than the list of Deshaun Watson's victims, to be honest. They lost Cooper Kupp in this game as well.
I saw that, man. Jeez.
Baby Yoda, to me, is looking very much like pre-ACL injury version of himself. It
sucks that the version of himself is prone to getting an ACL injury, though.
Right. It also sucks that the version of himself is still really short.
Yeah.
But, you know, the thing that he's able to do is once he starts to scramble, he's a nightmare to get hands on. And unlike a lot of these other quarterbacks, you have to give this guy credit. When he scrambles and gets outside the pocket, he sees the field in a way that a lot of these other guys don't.
Yep. He's got a rocket, too.
I mean, I don't know what the number is, but I would venture to guess that over half of his passes came from outside the pocket. And this guy's 17 for 21, 266 with 3 touchdown passes. That's impressive. And remember this, before that ACL injury, we were having is Kyler Murray the MVP conversation before that happened. So
it was also, you mentioned the fantasy stuff when we talked about Anthony Richardson a little bit. And I think that was part of it, too, where he gets pushed up because he gets you so many fantasy points. I think that's part of it. But it can be frustrating when defenses are sound and disciplined, and then it gets him in trouble.
Look, we all expected the Cardinals to be a team in rebuild mode, but with Kyler Murray playing like this, Marvin Harrison Jr. looking like the real deal, Trey McBride, the tight end who was such a sensation towards the back half of last year.
And a new age coach. We got to give Jonathan Gannon his new age. He's that Sirianni type shit.
Agreed. A good coach. You still have James Conner running the rock. Kyler Murray can obviously extend the play. The Cardinals are here to spoil the party, I think.
They are. Yeah, that division might send 3 teams to the playoffs.
Yeah, going into Arizona is no longer an easy out.
Nah. I know one easy out when I see one, and that's the Denver Broncos. An easy out is the route you run before Bo Nix throws the interception.
I'm sorry, I'm enjoying this so much. Bo Nix is he's still
threw for 246 yards, but he just threw 2 picks. He looks so bad and confused all the time. Somehow he got outplayed by Justin Fields. And that Steelers defense, we knew. Like, we forgot to make bets. We didn't have time. Our schedules didn't let us make bets. This would have been the bet that I made as a parlay. The under and cover, like Steelers, because for sure I knew this was going to play out like this. What I didn't know was that Justin Fields was going to carry the load like he did.
Correct, yeah.
He's playing way more like discipline and sound and like understanding who he is. It's almost like it's a very well-coached team. It's weird.
He is very much maximizing his opportunity at a second chance. I would give him credit for that for sure. How much longer can the Pittsburgh Steelers win football games like this?
This is going to be the whole year, bro. I think it's going to be all year.
I'm just not really sure how many weeks they can replicate a 13-6 win. I mean, this is the same way they won against the Falcons last week. Yeah. Great defensive performance. Fields didn't really win them the game, but he didn't lose them the game either.
Right.
And it also helps when you go up against someone like Bo Nix, who I personally think, and have been well documented on this podcast, is a fucking fraud. There are at least 3 former SEC quarterbacks who are starting quarterbacks in the NFL right now, who I have been 100% correct about because I've seen them on tape. Actually, no, 4. It's Bo Nix, Anthony Richardson, Bryce Young, and Will Levis. All 4 of them are
don't forget
trash. Tua is the only one SEC quarterback, starting quarterback who I actually believed in from the beginning. I was like, this guy's for real.
What did you think of Jalen Hurts?
Him I believed in. Those 2 were at Alabama at the same time, and they were kind of interchangeable. They were battling for the same position, and I thought they were both very good quarterbacks. But these other 4 guys are fucking bums, absolute bums. And Bo Nix might be the worst of them all.
Shit, worse than Bryce Young?
He's so bad, and something is going on in Denver. I mean, this Sean Payton with the inability to manufacture a run game is a huge red flag for me. I don't know if we should blame this on the offensive line or what, but with a rookie quarterback, the most important thing you need is a functioning run game so that you do not have to put the game on his shoulders for the entire 4 quarters. And so far, Javonte Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin have not done a goddamn thing over 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, when it comes to the Steelers,
but they are who we thought they were.
Like,
agreed.
It's going to be a defensive team every week, and that's what it's going to be. Low scoring, fucking. As long as they're healthy on defense,
yeah,
they're going to be flying around and wreaking havoc. Hightower is.
As long as they've got Hightower on one side, T.J. Watt on the other. As long as those two guys are healthy.
Yeah.
There was that one sack of Bo Nix, which is absolutely hilarious, where T.J. Watt he gets in and it actually looks like he completely misses Bo Nix. I guess he managed to get a piece of his ankle or something, and Bo Nix falls just out of nowhere,
like a Jenga game.
I mean, yeah, interesting.
Do you rewatch movies? You ever watch movies over and over again? I got a few
frequently, yes.
Have you ever seen that one where the Bengals lose the first 3 games of the season?
I have seen that movie.
It's on. It's on again. It's on right now, man. Oh my God. This is the part where Zach Taylor comes up to the podium and tells everybody it's gonna be all right, We had a rough go. They had 2 games they should have won. They should have pulled out this game against the Chiefs. They should have beat the Patriots the first week, and they're determined to go 0-3 to start the season.
Yeah, look, the good news is the Bengals looked a lot better. Joe Burrow specifically looked a lot better this week.
Oh yeah.
This was a pretty epic battle, in my opinion, that managed to live up to the hype. These are 2 teams that do not like each other, which I'm here for.
Yeah.
And when they get together, it never fails to disappoint. And it's a combination of the Bengals beating themselves and Mahomes pulling a rabbit out of his hat despite throwing 2 picks.
Yeah.
You leave too much time on the clock and this guy's going to kill you every fucking time.
Yeah.
Okay. And he sets it up for that last second field goal by the deeply problematic and disgustingly misogynistic Harrison Butker for the win.
It sucked.
It is what it is, and like you said, they do this frequently. I don't know. I'm the one thing that has me kind of genuinely concerned about the Cincinnati Bengals is I don't think their attempt to replace Joe Mixon with Zach Moss is going to work. I don't think it's going to work. I don't rate Zach Moss at all. I think he had a great sequence of games last year when he was playing for the Colts and Jonathan Taylor was holding out for more money. He had a couple of games where he caught lightning in a bottle. His stock went up, but I don't think he's that dude, period. I just don't. And Jamar Chase is out here throwing a temper tantrum because he's not getting the money that he wants, and which I have more to say about that later. But I don't know. The Bengals have some shit to figure out for sure.
Yeah, but thankfully, Wack Taylor's their coach, so they'll figure it out.
And they blew a great defensive performance too, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the defense.
Anarumo's got there. He's got the Chiefs' number, man.
Anarumo was great. Trey Henderson was an absolute nightmare in this game. He had 2 sacks all by his damn self. I mean, this game was there for the taking, and they just didn't take it.
The Bears played against the Texans, and we had a couple Caleb Williams interception sightings.
I mean, the Texans obviously eked out a very sloppy performance on their part, despite the fact that they had 7 sacks and 2 picks. 1 pick by my man, former Bulldog Kamari Lassiter. That was nice. I like to see that. Caleb Williams, through 2 games, has thrown 0 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. He's been sacked 9 times. He was pressured 36 times in this game.
Jeez. Yeah, they know the deal. Put pressure on him, make him have to make decisions.
Yeah.
Smart coach.
They took care of my man, former Bulldog DeAndre Swift, 18 yards on 14 carries. He did not have a good night. This Texans defense came to play.
Yeah.
100%. But so did the Bears defense. You know what I mean? They did not make it easy for CJ Stroud at all. But, you know, I'm in on D'Amico Ryans 100%.
Yes.
This dude is for real.
Yeah.
There was never a universe where I imagined that Matt Eberflus would outcoach D'Amico Ryans at all. I don't believe in him really at all. CJ Stroud to Nico Collins might be the scariest thing in the NFL right now.
And Diggs is in the wings.
Yeah.
You got.
And you pop off for 135 yards with Nico Collins, and you've got Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell just like kind of playing bit parts. You know, this is one of those teams that, you know, from one week to the next, it's like, okay, well, maybe we even this out. Maybe Tank Dell is going to fucking kill you this week.
Dalton Schultz might come out and ruin your day.
Dalton Schultz could ruin your fucking day for sure. Last week it was Joe Mixon ruining the day. So these Texans are for real.
Yep.
This
winning in different ways too, man.
Sloppy performance, but they have the roster to beat you in a lot of different ways from one week to the next, depending on what your game plan is. And I like this team. I like D'Amico Ryans. I like what he's built. I'm super impressed that he's managed to turn this team around as quickly as he has.
Yep. Chiefs better watch their back, man. That's a team that's nipping at their heels.
That's a good point. I agree.
Speaking of nipping at heels, we had a motherfucking bird battle. I was getting my ass whooped and flip 'em, pick 'em. It's like I got the best pick you made last week was to pick first.
That's true.
And leave me with all of the upsets, and all of my predictions pretty much were bad. So I threw the Hail Mary at the end, and I just believed that the Falcons were going to beat the Eagles. It also is because I didn't want the Falcons to start 0-2 for our bet. And they pulled it out, man, in an exciting fourth quarter.
I did something last night that I don't normally do.
Okay.
I did not stay up to watch this game. But before I went to bed, I put on my jacket. I walked out onto the balcony.
Oof.
And I prayed.
Really?
I did. I didn't pray to God because I don't believe in God. But I sort of prayed to the universe. I sat down on the balcony and I spoke out loud. I said, "Dear universe, if it's possible, I would really appreciate it if you would manufacture a scenario that will result in the Falcons beating the Philadelphia Eagles in this game tonight." And I said specifically, I would like to request 2 touchdown passes from Kirk Cousins, one to Drake London, and maybe one to Kyle Pitts. I'd also like to have 2 touchdowns from Bijan Robinson, if that's okay. And then I said, and actually maybe throw in a couple of field goals from Younghoe Koo just to make sure. And then I came back inside and I went to bed and I was laying there and I couldn't sleep and I couldn't figure out why. And it suddenly hit me. I was like, fuck, I forgot to ask for no interceptions. So for anyone tracking, my prayer was sort of answered in the sense that I got the 2 touchdown passes from Kirk Cousins. I got a touchdown for Drake London. I didn't get one for Kyle Pitts. I didn't get the 2 that I was asking for from Bijan Robinson. And
you really wanted a blowout.
And I got the field goals from Younghoe Koo. So, you know, you don't get everything you ask for
No,
in
that's
life.
not how the universe works. Yeah.
But I did get a 22-21 victory. Thanks in large part to the Eagles kind of, to be fair, beating themselves at the end there. The other thing I requested, which actually did come true, was I think the last thing I asked for before I came inside was like, and please don't let Saquon Barkley kill us. And thankfully he dropped a very important pass towards the end of the game that would have just completely iced it and eliminated our chance to have that final game-winning drive
in Philly.
So I'm happy with my prayer and that the majority of it was answered. I don't want to be one of those people who prays for everything, because if there is some kind of mystical force actually answering prayers, I would imagine that they probably, people who pray every day are probably they're like, ugh, this fucking guy again. You know what I mean? So I'd like to think that when they heard me, they were like, hey, you know what? That guy never bugs us. Let's hook him up. Let's hook a motherfucker up tonight. Go Falcons. Rise up.
Forget that kid with cancer.
That kid prays every day to not have cancer. I'm over it.
It's Skip's turn.
So, thankfully for me, Falcons got a win, and that kid with cancer is now he's no longer suffering. Let's just say that. He's no longer suffering.
All right. Well, we got some superlatives to get to before we get out of here. I can go first with my real MVP. I want to say that my real MVP is no surprise here. It's Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is my real MVP. I've been a doubter of him. So Sunday I had to eat my serving of crow for the day because he looked otherworldly in the game against the Rams. He went full video game mode at times, scrambling around, dropping bombs, getting an easy day of work in, going 17 for 21, 266 yards, 3 tutties, and no picks, gaining that elusive perfect quarterback rating of 158.3. It was a masterclass that also unlocked the rookie wide receiver we've all been waiting for in Marvin Harrison Jr. The game was over pretty much right away, and that's because on this day, Kyler Murray.
You the real MVP.
Well deserved. I'm going to go with Sam Darnold for my MVP. Going up against both the dreaded 49ers as well as his own legacy of seeing ghosts, this man dropped a bomb into a bucket that Justin Jefferson turned into a 97-yard touchdown, effectively putting Kyle Shanahan, the boy genius, on his heels and eventually on his ass. Besides the 97-yarder, Darnold was also able to extend drives with his legs. He continued to throw darts even after he lost what is arguably the best receiver in the NFL due to a contusion on his quad. It's been a long, winding road for this former number 1 overall pick, and I don't really know what he's going to look like week after week. But in week 2, you beat the 49ers. This man's my real MVP.
You the real MVP.
Who's your trash?
My trash is Will Levis. Plain and simple. Anytime that you can force your coach to visibly ask, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
I just, and this whole idea that he has to figure out a way to rewire his brain. I think this guy is just as bad as I ever thought he was.
Oof.
You are trash!
I'm going to stay in the SEC. I think it's obvious who the trash is, man. Bryce Young. I don't want to pile on as you do with trash, but
See what you did there.
That Bryce Young was trash, man. I think his average going down the field was like 8 yards. It's like you got to be. He can't throw the ball downfield. He can't read defense. He just gets confused. It's hard to watch, and I'm glad we don't have to anymore when the return of the Red Rifle next week. So it's obvious, according to me and according to your coach.
You are trash!
Shit got learned is that it's just a matter of time before 80% of the league is going to have kickers that are automatic inside 60 yards. These guys are nothing short of incredible. just watching it, like that Cowboys kicker, he kicked a 56-yarder and it just flew above the uprights to where you had to look to see. Like it was so, and that's 56 yards. He could have kicked that probably 65, 66 yards if he wanted to. It's a matter of time before everybody's nailing them inside 60, and points are just gonna go up because these kickers are gonna be scoring if you get past midfield. It's insane, and I'm here for it because points are good. So that's my shit I learned.
That's a great point. There was one point in the Bucs game where they sent their kicker out to kick what would have been a record-breaking field goal, but they changed their minds at the last second because it was right before the half, and there was just a little too much time left on the clock. Like, had he missed, the Lions would have had really good field position, and had there been 7 seconds left on the clock, he probably would have stepped up and broke that record. I thought that was fascinating. What I learned is that Jamar Chase needs to learn how to compartmentalize his emotions. I get that he's pissed and that he didn't get the deal that he was promised, but now it's time to lock it down and ball the fuck out to regain the leverage and force them to pay you even more than what you've been asking for.
Good point.
But that moment where he got up and complained to the ref, after he got tackled in a way that he didn't like, he just lost his shit. Especially since, he cost his team a 15-yard unsportsmanlike penalty because he turned around and went back after the ref. I mean, sometimes, look, I get it. My business is the same. Sometimes you have no leverage and it's frustrating, and it's hard to realize that freaking out is only going to make it worse. Because right now, Jamar Chase needs the one thing he needs more than anything is that Julio Jones, like quiet assassin mentality where you say less and you do more on the field. That is how you make them pay you. That's the shit I learned. Also, side note, I learned that every time Harrison Butker makes a field goal, God kills a kitten.
You sure it's not a Haitian immigrant?
Yeah, I thought about that.
Killing the kitten. It's either God or a Haitian immigrant killing the kitten. They're eating our cats. They're eating our dogs.
Yeah. Every time Harrison Butker makes a field goal, God eats a kitten.
God eats a Haitian.
Yeah.
You putting some Speck out there this week or not?
I am, and this hurts me so much to do this. I'm really Ken, put something else in your ears besides headphones. But I have to give it to the New Orleans Saints. Everybody's been talking shit about these guys, myself included. Even their own fans who ranked dead last in the preseason confidence rankings when asked how they felt about their team's chances. Week 1 was a beatdown of the Panthers, so no big whoop there. But then they roll out in week 2 and lay the wood on the Cowboys, who are supposed to have one of the most furious defenses in the NFL, a Mike Zimmer defense, no less. The Saints have the 4th most points through 2 games in NFL history, for fuck's sakes. I do obviously hope that this is some kind of a weird early season blip and that it all starts to unravel from here. But in week 2, I got to give credit where credit is due. Saints fans, this does not happen often. It might never happen again, but I am going to put some Speck on your name.
Put some respect on my name.
All right. I'm putting a little Speck on Justin Fields. I can see the growth already. Steelers are 2-0 right now. I know it's because of their defense, and Fields is not, quote-unquote, carrying the team, but the growth is evident. And all he's been asked to do is not blow the games until Russell Wilson gets back. And guess what? He's not blowing the games. As a matter of fact, he's keeping drives alive. And I witnessed a back shoulder fade dime that I never saw while he was in Chicago. I'm still in camp. He ain't it. But for now, he's saying,
put some respect on my name.
Yeah.
First NFL touchdown for my man, former Bulldog Darnell Washington. Big O!
You got to find
Big O!
It will find a way. Talk about slobber knocker. Our pigskin pick'em leader is an unnamed team.
weird.
of Stefan, my friend. But he leads a 4-way tie with Alexander. Shout out to Alexander, Coney, and Philip.
Stefan, name your fucking team, bro.
Yeah, name your team, bro.
Fuck that guy.
That's what I want to call this team. There's as far as the eliminator, I want to say I didn't even look that up. Before we get out of here, I want to look up the eliminator.
How many people picked the Ravens?
I looked at it. I was like a little like, huh, am I still alive? There's 5 teams got eliminated, man. We had two Ravens, 1 Eagles, Falcons. Somebody thought the Eagles were going to beat the Falcons for sure. Somebody thought the Cowboys were going to beat the Saints for sure. And somebody thought the 49ers would beat the Vikings. And now there are just 8 teams remaining. 5 of them picked the Chargers to beat the Panthers. It's obvious what you have to do in this game is
just pick against the Panthers. I mean,
and 2 picked the Texans over the Bears.
How quickly is the Eliminator Challenge going to be over? Are we going to be done by week 4? It's like hardly anybody left.
Man, there's 8 teams left. No, yeah, there's 8 teams left.
Oh, there's 8 teams left. Okay.
Yeah. Man, somebody picked the Jets over the Titans.
Oof, brave.
Yeah, that's So yeah. It was a fun one, man. It was a fun week that got me out of my slump. So I'm really glad about it. I'm glad to be doing this, man. You're keeping me happy through this time of year, man. Thanks for meeting up with me randomly so we can start this podcast a few years ago. And thank y'all for listening. We'll be back soon. It's been Jonathan Rollins.
Give me Zara.
With SveNFL. Peace.
Later, y'all.